Welcome, everybody, to a special edition of the Orange Bloods Texas Football YouTube channel. It's a breaking news edition. I'm Jeff Ketchum, joined by Anwar Richardson, hot off the presses. Literally, in the last hour, a Houston Chronicle report comes out that says that a source tells the Houston Chronicle that both Texas and Oklahoma are aggressively maneuvering to enter the SEC. Anwar, you and I checked with sources. We've had a variety of answers to questions that we've been asking, but the bottom line is this story is hot. It seems to be real. We've reached out to sources who have either said no comment or, yeah, there's stuff going on here. Our day changed today with this. I've just been working on hiring people, and now Texas and OU to the SEC is a bombshell that's not going away anytime soon.
It is not. I'm kind of, as we're recording this, I'm thinking to myself, I think we should have gone live as opposed to doing this format, but it's okay. It's hindsight. We'll get this thing knocked out. It is a bombshell, and it's so many reasons and so many things, and I think there's so many layers to it. Some of it predates my tenure to when this was talked about years before, and I think this is something that you can speak to. But just the thought of Texas and OU departing the Big 12, which is something that, there's, again, you've had Texas fans who've said they don't want any parts of the SEC. You've had them say like the academics are a certain issue over in the SEC. And then you've had people say, well, A&M's left there, fine. But look, where there's smoke, there's fire. I can tell you from a reporting perspective, the one thing that usually happens, if there's a big story and it is false, there is usually a rush to go ahead and put that fire out. You will always have an official tell you that story is incorrect. The fact that we're reaching out to people and no one's willing to go ahead and put that damp rag on this thing and no one's willing to say there's something inaccurate about it, it says a lot. So one, it says that they've been working on this thing for a while. Two, they've been able to keep this thing under wraps for a while. And three, there is some sort of smoke to this fire catch.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. I mean, I don't want to speak for you and your sourcing, but you posted on orangebloods.com within the last half hour that I'll just let you tell. You reached out to a senior Texas official about this very thing and was told.
I reached out to a senior official where I feel like the person's been very accurate over the years, and the response back to me was nothing to say. And that, to me, again, this is what we do in this business, right? Sometimes it's not as much as what people say as what they don't say, right? Yeah. And so when there's certain things that you want to go and deny, right? You know what I'm saying, Catch? And so did you murder that person? No comment. That's something that you probably want to comment on, right? So when someone's telling you, hey, I've got nothing to say on it, that to me shows that there's something there. There's something in the works. There's something that they're talking about, something that's brewing for sure. And it's just a matter of whether crossing the T's or dotting the I's, getting things taken care of. Maybe there's some more things that are in the works and no one wants to blow it. But there's something here, Catch. There's something about this Texas to OU thing. Regardless of whatever happens, we can say on this day, there's something to it.
I reached out to another senior official, and we both know our officials. My official, not quite as high as your official. My official played dumb and didn't give me a no comment, didn't say no, didn't say yes, acted like they didn't quite know where this was coming from, and then followed that up with, that would be amazing. So, at the very least, people, I think, are signing off on it. I reached out to another source in a specific team, and they indicated to me that there was more than just smoke at play here, that there was fire. I think we're going to see this on the Oklahoma side. I think we may see more information come out on the Oklahoma side on this in terms of who's most willing to confirm that something is happening. Because a lot of the it's fire and not smoke that I'm getting from is coming from people with access to the Oklahoma side of things. So we're reaching out to Texas people, and there's a whole lot of no comment and a whole lot of nothing to say, or I just don't know anything at all. Whereas I get this sense that there are looser lips north of the Red River. And now there's all kinds of, we know that the Big 12 rights agreement ends in a couple of years. And so there had already been speculation about what would happen when the rights expire and essentially Texas and OU and members of the Big 12 could act as free agents because their rights aren't bundled together in this, I guess, second tier rights package for TV revenue and TV rights. What happens next is two interesting questions for me, Anwar. A, could Texas and Oklahoma realistically leave behind the rest of the Big 12 without any repercussions? Because neither school has lived in a world where they've ever been able to act without Oklahoma State and once upon a time Texas A&M, but even the Baylors and the Texas Techs of the world have always had the political clout to potentially make things problematic. And then on the other side of this, will Texas A&M actively fight to block a Texas and OU move to the SEC? Because as one source told me, as soon as I contacted them about this less than an hour ago, you put Texas and Oklahoma in the SEC and it takes away A&M's number one selling point in recruiting.
I mean, is this a thing where this is ESPN that ends up being the ones that kind of drive this train, Catch? I mean, because there is the LHN aspect of it. I spoke to one person, Catch, and they said, well, if ESPN wanted to, they could just fold LHN into, one of their, the SEC or something to that effect. But, their LHN was, an issue before, but I imagine ESPN can work those things out with everybody. And there's got to be a way to say, all right, Big 12, here's some other schools that you may be able to have. And but it sounds to me like, Catch, or something like this, you got to follow the money. I think I got to start with the networks that are going to be able to say, this is what we want. This is how everyone's going to get paid more money. If there's somehow more money to be made with contracts, because isn't the SEC contract up as well soon, Catch?
I'm not correct? Exactly sure. I got to be honest.
Yeah, well, I'll edit it out if it isn't. But there. In any case, I think first and foremost, it starts with the televisions and what they want, and then I think after that, Catch, it's A&M. They may kick and scream, but it's going to be put to a vote. I think Kirk Bowles said, hey, it will be put to a majority vote. So A&M will only have one vote, and then it's going to be up to what everyone else in that conference wants. But if you're another team in that conference, outside of, let's say, like in Alabama of sorts, and you want to get into that Texas recruiting pool, and let's say, because everyone's fighting over a lot of places in the South, the Georgias, the Floridas of the world, and and Alabama's been able to successfully come in here. But if you're everybody else, Catch, this is like payday. This is money from a recruiting standpoint to say you can expand your footprint into Texas. Oh, A&M might be the only person that shoots it down. I guarantee you there'll be a whole lot of other thirsty schools that want to get inside this state.
I think the SEC has a footprint, but it weirdly, because it's just A&M in the conference, it still gets positioned as an outsider inside the state of Texas. That the Big 12 is considered the I think conference in the state of Texas. And the SEC's been knocking that door down and making it less and less so. In a world where Texas and OU join the SEC, which, let me just say for the record, in 2021, it's where Texas and Oklahoma need to be. They fight an uphill battle in a lot of respects by it being in the Big 12. I think that especially in recruiting, this would do wonders for Texas football recruiting, and it would somewhat neutralize A&M's biggest sell in recruiting. It would jumpstart that rivalry again. There's a lot of pieces of this, but I think you nailed it. Texas and OU join the SEC, and suddenly the SEC conference as a whole gets to claim the state of Texas the way that it does the state of Mississippi. And that's just their region. And I think that if you bring in those two, you really monopolize the big markets in the state of Texas, from Dallas to Houston to Austin and San Antonio. There's a lot of TV sets. There's a big reason why if you're the SEC, you'd want to have your flagpole in as much of this state as possible. The politics of this, I think, will turn out to be an amazing story from here on out. And part of the thing that you and I will be covering as soon as this video ends, and then we begin the rest of the journey for what this story is going to be and for however long. A&M's at the podium right now.
Yeah.
Jimbo Fisher is at SEC Media Day, and one of the first questions that he was asked was, what are your thoughts about Texas and Oklahoma coming to the SEC? And his response is, I'm worried about Texas A&M. That's a hell of a thing to have to deal with when you're there to talk about your top 5, football team, and your moment gets hijacked by this other thing. It's the story that's going to dominate what we talk about, I think, possibly for the foreseeable future going into the season.
So 2 things, Catch. I sent you an article. I knew I wasn't too far off, but there was an article back in late December. It said from headline from New York Times: SEC reaches $3 billion deal with Disney, drawing CBS ties towards an end. So I did realize there was something new with the SEC, which means everybody's going to be potentially making more money that's in there. So that can definitely help when you start talking about pacifying people. I think the recruiting footprint definitely helps. And here's the other thing too, Catch. If you're the SEC and the college football playoffs is expanding, well, take the other 2 teams that may have a possibility of getting in there. You take OU, that will definitely be there and have an opportunity to get in there. And then you have to take Texas, that has an opportunity to get in there. And suddenly, how many teams does the SEC potentially have in the playoffs? I mean, just 8 out of 12.
Well, and I think one thing, this will be the last thing I say.
Okay.
The Big 12, this is from Dennis Dodd. Per the Big 12 grant of rights, league owns the TV rights of any school that leaves the conference before the contract expires in 2025. So whatever happens, this thing has to see the current contract through. And so what we're really almost certainly talking about is a potential move that would happen in a few years, which would leave the Big 12 as dead conference walking. Right. We haven't said this, but this doesn't impact this season, and it almost certainly wouldn't impact next season or the season afterwards. This is, I think, a story about the long-term future, and that long-term future has always been in doubt. There's always been some thought of, what will Texas and OU do? I had a buy or sell question in my 10 thoughts from the weekend about this. Does the extra teams in the playoff give Texas and OU reason to stay where they are? Or when they get their get out of jail card, do they use it? Today is an indication, more than anything, this is the story. When they get their get out of jail card in a few years, the story today is that Texas and Oklahoma want to use it. That's the story. There's really not much else of a story yet because the other steps haven't, I think, taken place. Mm-hmm. But in the answer to the question of what will Texas and Oklahoma do when their TV rights expire in the current deal, today's answer is they're exploring.
That's a hell of an answer, by the way. I mean, that's like saying, hey, I'm in a relationship, but the kids are graduating from high school in another 3 years. And then once the kids are out, we'll reevaluate, right? And that's what it said. We're in there. We're doing this for the marriage. But when the kids get out of high school, we'll see what happens.
No, it's a great point, and it essentially leaves us in that place where you're still married. Like when that happens, you're still married, but it does change what remains of the marriage.
Yeah.
And today's a landmark moment, I think, in the history of the Big 12. We don't know where it goes from here. I don't think either you or I are predicting this is what's going to happen and when it's going to happen by, but there is smoke. There appears to be fire. And I think we will look back on this day as whatever happens from here on out. This was the moment that triggered everything. So credit to, I think, Brent Zwinterman from the Houston Chronicle and the San Antonio paper for being the guy to get this out first. Because as soon as you and I started calling about it, we started getting interesting comments along the lines immediately. And look, we'll have more video on this. We'll have the Orange Bloods modcast tomorrow. The entire Orange Blood staff will be here talking about this very story. So, and we're also going to have a brand new offer on orangebloods.com. Go to the front page. Go to our Twitter pages. We're going to have a trial offer so that you can hop on Orange Bloods. You're going to have Orange Bloods for free through September. So check it out.
Told you.
See what you like.
Told you.
If we can't win you over through August in the first month of the season, we suck at our jobs. But let me tell you something. We may suck in general, but we do not suck at our jobs. For myself and Anwar, I know.
Whoa. You may suck. I don't know what you're talking about.
There are times when you've done things that make me think you suck, Anwar. Not very often.
You know you're saying something that has a double meaning, right? And you know people are going to run with it.
I'm trying to pretend that I didn't.
Okay, but you did.
What's another word for suck that you don't feel bad?
Bad?
We bad?
We may be bad at our jobs.
No, but I said we may suck, but we don't suck at our jobs.
No.
All right, guys, Anwar will not sign off on me saying that sometimes we may suck.
No.
Just not at our jobs.
No.
For myself and Anwar Richardson, we rarely agree on everything all of the time. See our video from earlier today. See the video right this second as you finish this thing. Like us, subscribe to us. We'll see you tomorrow. Later.